The most controversial part of the long-running Ecuador lawsuit involving Texaco is a court-ordered report that says Chevron should pay a stunning $27 billion in damages. The plaintiff side insists the report was independent, but there is a dark shadow of doubt over that claim. The report was done by this man, a mining engineer named Richard Cabrera, someone with no background in hydrocarbon impact on the environment. In Chevron's view, Cabrera was clearly unqualified for his role as a court-appointed expert, and it says his report is a thinly disguised brief for the plaintiffs. For example, according to court records and contrary to Ecuadorian law, the plaintiffs paid for the Cabrera report $200,000. The checks were signed by Luis Yanza, seen as a frontman for the lawsuit in Lago Agrio, and the plaintiffs appear to have played a direct role in Cabrera's research. Consider some photos. In this one, the man aiding in Cabrera's so-called independent search for evidence is Silvio Haya, a member of the plaintiff's technical team. Another site inspection with Donald Moncayo, a leading activist with the Amazon Defense Coalition, the designated recipient of any court-awarded damages. Moncayo is wearing a yellow shirt. Richard Cabrera is seen leaning against a tree. Chevron was denied access to Cabrera's field work. It charges his report is filled with errors. For instance, Cabrera claims that Texaco left behind about 900 waste oil pits, which he says is proven by Ecuadorian Air Force aerial photography. But experts say many of the photos, including this one, taken after Texaco left the consortium in 1992, were backdated in a clumsy effort to shift responsibility to Texaco. Chevron has also presented the judge with evidence that key portions of Cabrera's report were, in effect, authored by the plaintiffs. Consider this. In his amended report from November 2008, Cabrera quotes directly from a plaintiff's document filed 2 months earlier. Referring to the cost for cleaning up TPH, or total petroleum hydrocarbons in the soil, both the plaintiffs and Cabrera come up with exactly the same number, $2,034 million. Not only that, the only difference in language, where the plaintiffs write the cost analysis, Cabrera writes my analysis. Where the plaintiff's document uses the phrase the real cost to remediate the soils, Cabrera adopts the same words and simply refers to, quote, my revised calculations. Otherwise, he takes the plaintiff's finding verbatim. Then there is Cabrera's charge that Chevron should pay $8 billion because Texaco unjustly profited from its partnership in Ecuador. The company says the truth is Texaco netted $490 million. Nearly $25 billion went to the government of Ecuador in oil, taxes, and royalties. Perhaps most dramatic of Cabrera's allegations that Texaco's ways led to an excessive number of rainforest cancer deaths. For that $9 billion finding, once again Cabrera relies exclusively on numbers and the very language of the plaintiff's attorneys. But his report fails to identify a single person with cancer or a single medical record of a cancer death. Nor does Cabrera produce any evidence of cancer-causing substances from oil pollution in drinking water or soil. In fact, cancer claims brought to the U.S. by the Ecuadorian attorney who initially launched the lawsuit back in 1993 have already been dashed by a federal judge. In September 2007, here in San Francisco, the last of 9 cancer allegations against Chevron were dismissed, and the U.S. District Court judge issued a stinging rebuke to the attorneys who brought the claims, which he termed baseless. Their inquiry, he said, was so minimal as to be unreasonable and incompetent. Meanwhile, on Cabrera's resurrected cancer claims.
We looked at cancer mortality rates in the Amazon region in general, and we compared those rates to Quito, and we found that the Amazon region has much lower cancer rates. We also compared the regions where there were oil activities in the Amazon to regions where there were no oil activities, and really found no differences, actually found slightly lower rates of cancer in these regions.
Chevron has consistently argued that Texaco's Oriente oil field remediation was thorough, that the case against it is based on fraudulent claims, and is inappropriately bolstered by public support from Ecuador's President Rafael Correa, all in an attempt to cover up for Petroecuador's environmental neglect. For his part, Richard Cabrera admits he has seen evidence of Petroecuador's poor operations. It has, after all, been responsible for hundreds of oil spills. But he basically holds the state-owned company blameless. Given that it's been the sole operator of the Oriente fields for almost 2 decades, some say Cabrera's exoneration of Ecuador is a prime example of his bias and calls for a complete suspension of logic. This is Gene Randall.